The corona pandemic seems to have its tiny silver linings too, as the crisis has triggered changes in both the land and labor laws across the country. And this is being seen as a massive effort from various states to facilitate a revival of the economy post COVID. Tushar Gupta and me will today look at this issue of change in these laws and the bearing they have on the economy. In the latest Tushar, Karnataka announced a long pending land acquisition reform which clears the longest standing hurdle for industry and development in the state. Now, agricultural land can now be acquired from farmers by the industries directly. And making do with the never-ending hassle of getting clearances, the loop of red tapeism and bureaucracy, this amendment facilitates acquisition in that permission will still have to be sought from the revenue department, but if the commissioner raises no red flag nor approves the proposal within 30 days of application, it will be deemed approved. Now, this is a much needed move, right? Especially at a time when states are looking forward to invite and host investment at a massive scale post the corona crisis, especially. What do we see in other states?
That's actually true. See, what happened in other states, I'll come a bit north. Let's start with Uttar Pradesh. They suspended all the labor laws for 3 years, barring the three ones, which was Building and Other Construction Workers Act of 1996, Workmen Compensation Act of 1923, and the Bonded Labor Act of 1976. So they suspended all the labor laws, they kept the basics in place. MP went on a similar spree, Madhya Pradesh, under the BJP government of Shivraj Chauhan. So, what is really happening in Karnataka? We see through the land reforms in UP, MP, and even in Gujarat, and we'll soon see it in Rajasthan and Punjab, and even Odisha for that matter, is there is a change in labor reforms. Now, why are these happening essentially? We are in a very disruptive time if we talk about manufacturing. The demand has fallen. To revive the growth, manufacturing is important, not just to revive growth to the pre-COVID-19 levels, but even to make or strengthen India's place in the global manufacturing chain. These labor reforms are very important. So this is why the states have been on a spree, starting with Uttar Pradesh, and thankfully to take Karnataka, because land acquisition laws, if they are being changed, that's actually a very good sign.
So one can judge the scale of this issue when one sees the number of proposals that never saw the light of the day, Tushar. For example, in the context of this land acquisition amendment that has been made in Karnataka, just between 2013 and 2018, 90% of the investment proposals worth almost say 50,000 crore rupees that were cleared by the state government got stuck in this rut of land acquisition. So we see the scale of loss is massive. But what stopped the reform process, be it land or labor laws? Why has it taken almost eternity for us to be done away with these archaic laws?
Yeah, that's a very good point, Harsha. So I was just reading a report from Economic Times this morning, and stalled infrastructure projects have cost us 4 lakh crore. And you know the biggest reason for these infrastructure project delay? It's land acquisition. It's forest clearance. So these activists and the labor unions, the kind of protest they hold, it's a sort of impacts the political will to usher these changes. Now, here's the thing: the labor reforms. I'll speak of the labor reforms first. These are concurrent. They come under the concurrent list. So, if ever the state and the center are at conflict on how it should be imposed in a particular state, the centers will have the final call. But the good thing is, most of the states which have gone ahead with the labor reforms are BJP ruled states. So I don't see any political wrestling happening. What Max we'll see is some activist groups saying that the workers will now be exploited, they will be given lower wages. But see, at this point, you're not worried about lower wages. The wages are anyway falling. The wages were falling before COVID 19 as well, because the economy was already in sort of a doldrums. What we really need to make sure now is that we start running again. Only when you run again, you can worry about the speed. You can't be fallen on the floor and then worry what your velocity is.
Yeah,
At
so
this
what
point,
you told about as far as the federal aspect is concerned, see, at least in Karnataka, this brings us good news because a lot of investors at the Davos World Economic Forum had expressed interest in investing in the state sans these bureaucratic hurdles and red tape. And at least immediately now to ease the burden of a cash-starved state that we are, this is a much welcome move. But what are the long term benefits of this change in policy? And especially given that what you mentioned, it's a concurrent issue, right? So, what are the long term federal implications?
see, the good thing is the states will be competing with each other. Now, we've seen what has COVID 19 actually done? It's broken the myth of the big city. Earlier, people used to concentrate in the cities like Bombay and NCR for manufacturing. What this will essentially do, this will inspire states to get more investment into their own terrain. For example, Yogi has offered tailor-made solutions to companies looking to move out from China, just for a small example. So states will be competing amongst themselves for investments, for companies to move their supply chains here. Who eventually gains? The Indian economy. Even as states compete with each other, they try to bring down the red tape, India wins. So this is one long-term implication I see. Second, the employment will be more diversified. Unlike what we saw during the crisis, migrants won't be concentrated in a few pockets of India. They will be diversified, and this is very important. Going forward, if this pandemic has one lesson for us, it is to diversify our manufacturing not just across the world, not let's just say from China to India, but also within India across the country, right? Third thing, the labor unions, the backbone of the labor unions will be broken. Now, please understand, these labor unions, due to their political capacity, they've held hostage to very significant reforms which have come in the way of investment, which have come in the way of companies wanting to set up shop in India. That will go. And the activist lobby will be broken too. Of course, care has to be taken that the workers aren't exploited. The wages are paid on time, and that will be taken care of. The rights of women and children working in these factories is taken care of. But the long term implications I see are some very healthy investments coming into India.
But is it merely
Harsha,
enough? Like to
yeah,
amend
that's what
these
I was.
laws?
Yeah. See, labor reforms is just one piece of the puzzle, of the grand puzzle.
Exactly. We would need a lot of supplementary action, right? To facilitative action, especially.
See, on paper, all of it sounds good. On paper, having these labor reforms sounds good. It all boils down to implementation because that's where we often fail as a nation, as a state, as a system. So, what we would want that labor reforms is one critical part of the puzzle that's being sorted across states. Let's move on to land acquisition. Let's move on to things like forest clearance. For example, I keep coming back to this example of the bullet train. The policy shouldn't be a slave to politics. The government at the state changes, suddenly you have a different set of policies. Now, companies won't be entertaining that kind of political instability. So, these are the supplementary issues we need to address. Of course, labor reforms is a step in the right direction, but it's not the only step that needs to be taken. But again, let's first start running and then think about the velocity and the speed and everything else.